Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Good morning, Tom. Happy Thursday. It's great to see you. It's been so long.
Yes, it has been.
What's it been, about 8.5 hours, almost 9 hours?
A little more than that. I think we got back to the car at 11. Bob and I went to a baseball game last night. So
we didn't just go to any baseball game. We went to a game where the Orioles finally ended a 19-game losing streak. I know you're a Yankees fan, but you've got to admit those 15,827 people were bringing the noise.
They got their money's worth last night.
It was exciting. It was exciting.
It was a good game. It was, for two teams that I casually follow. Well, one I casually follow, and the other I don't pay attention to at all. It was fun. My thing is I love a baseball game. I can go and sit and watch baseball for forever. And
folks, Tom is fun to go to the game with because he likes to predict what the pitcher is going to do pitch by pitch. So he'd be like, yeah, he's going to go either low and away here or low and inside, or he's going to throw a curveball. It was really fun to have Tom predict and then complain because the scoreboard kept saying every pitch was a sinker. And Tom's like, that wasn't a sinker.
Well, I'm not sure that I knew whether it was or wasn't. It just seemed like every pitch for a long time, probably 80% was sinkers. I'm like, I'm not sure they're throwing that many sinkers. Anyhow, that's a whole nother story. But that was my days as a catcher where I used to love to think about.
And for tax purposes, we talked a lot of business.
We did talk a lot of business. We absolutely did. There's no doubt about that. So, yes, it was a business trip. Anyhow, welcome, everyone. That's not what we're here to talk about, but it was a good discussion. So this is today's Antidote, our daily broadcast where we try to provide, as you heard in the opening, one thing. So we have a discussion. Our discussion this week has been around when they say no. And our topic today is what it can lead to. But before we get to that, one of the first things we do all the time we get together is celebrate. Bob, what are we celebrating today?
We are celebrating National Dog Day. Now, are you a dog person or a cat person?
Oh, heavens. Dog all the way.
I thought I was a dog person. We had 2 dogs, and they both died about, 7 or 8 years ago. We got a cat in January. This cat, Casey, who's been on the program once or twice, I am like wrapped around Casey's finger.
Interesting.
It is amazing. I have never been as devoted to anything in the world as I am to this cat. I kid you not, Tom. So even though it's National Dog Day and I do appreciate dogs, I've become a cat person.
Then you should share that on National Cat Day, not Dog Day. National Dog Day. And yes, I am definitely a dog. I'm allergic to cats. So cats can stay away. We have 2 dogs. 2 15-year-old dogs that we adore. They drive us nuts sometimes, and we adore them. So I was wondering, because Liz, my wife, shared with me that today was National Dog Day. So she pays attention a little bit to our show and knew what we were going to be
I think more than we realized.
And she was hoping that would be the national day that you selected today. So kudos for...
So that was the pressure I was under.
It was. And here's
Tom
the thing.
tells me right before the program, he's like, hey, you're under a little pressure today. And he won't tell me what it is. I'm like, oh, no. Is my shirt button wrong or something?
I will. And I don't say this very often. You made the right choice today.
Okay. So not going with National Cherry Popsicle Day was a good choice because I felt like that was far more humorous.
Yeah, and I actually like cherry popsicles. And Dog Day was a really good choice. So kudos to you on doing that. And you may
let's get to the point, Tom.
Well, I was just going to say, you may wonder why we do that. It's one of the things that we know is that when we start having conversations with celebrations, it changes the mood dramatically. Doesn't matter what was going on. That conversation about a celebration allowed us to change and be thinking about what was next and how do we move forward, and something that brought us joy, or that sometimes celebrations are about a success that you had. And when you think about a success, it's easier to have other success. One of the challenges, I think, in relationship to the baseball game is when you lose 19 games in a row, it becomes very easy to just assume that's what's going to happen. If you got 19 no's in a row when you were talking to people about business and the opportunity for them to buy your product, service, join your company, whatever it might be, you are going to start to assume that every other conversation is going to be a no. So when you start thinking about where those opportunities where you've had success had a yes, it can lead to more yeses and that positive mentality. So that's one of the key reasons why we always start with celebrations, is because it allows us to get in a very different mindset and be prepared for whatever is about to happen. And while we're talking about that, the conversation is now about when they say no and what it can lead to, which I think is a very interesting topic. So do you want to delve into that, Bob, about what it can lead to when you get a no?
I would love to. I think every no could lead to a future yes. And I think that's a real mind shift I had to make, because at first I felt like every no was sort of like losing another baseball game. How are we going to lose this game? How are we going to lose this game? Even last night, the Orioles were up, 10-6 in the 9th inning? And yes, everyone was holding their breath.
Not me. You were holding your breath. That is something that amazes me. It's interesting because my mom, we were home. I was home a week or so ago, and we were watching that team that the Orioles fans don't like that I like. And
which one? We have several.
Several Yankees. Okay. And my parents and I are big Yankee fans. And I was sitting there watching my mom, and she's like, "Oh yeah, they're going to blow this. Oh, they're going to find a way to lose this." And I was like, "What? Well, why?" Now, as an Oriole fan, when they have done it so many times in a row, I can sort of understand that. And I think there's also that opportunity that when you turn it around and say, "Hey, you know what? This is our opportunity for change. This is the opportunity."
In business, we have the same thing, right? I mean, if 5 people on calls say, "I'm not interested in talking to you," that's not a good. Why are you calling me? Or variations on those ideas. That tends to get in my head. And I know a lot of people I talk to, it gets in their head. But those no's, if you can understand hey, you called me on the worst day of the year. Hey, you called me at 7 a.m. I'm sorry, I'm really busy right now. Hey, you're calling me on the week I'm on vacation. Those pieces of data can help you figure out how to do things differently and potentially better serve people. And I think you have to be willing to say, no isn't the end of the story. Oh my God, I'm horrible. Quit my business. It's over. But no is, okay, help me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bother you today. What's going on? Oh, I'm on vacation. It's the last day before school starts. I'm with my kids. We're at, a park. We're doing something. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that. And if 3 people tell me that, then I go, yeah, this might not be the best week to be making calls. Perhaps waiting till after the holiday, after Labor Day, give people a day. We talked about doing something, and we said, hey, we could start it the day after Labor Day. And that was like, well, that's a really busy day because everyone's getting back into their routine. Let's wait a day or 2. That's sure, based on the feedback you and I have gotten in the past from things and just what we've observed.
And I also think that it's one of those things that if you lead with the ask right away, you might get the response and never learn all the details. If you lead with a conversation, the person might not even know that you were intending to ask them. You might call them and be like, "Hey, I was just, I wanted to check in, see how things," and they're like, "Oh, you know what? I can't really talk right now. It's the last day of vacation." Interesting. Or I'm really busy. I need to move forward. Or, I just can't think about it right now because I got to focus on these 2 or 3 other things. And I think what happens is, one, even when you get the no, you have a chance to understand
Mhm.
and move forward and figure out, okay, what are the things? What did I learn for it? How do I measure in the moment the current results that I got, and what can I take from it? You know, the three key questions that we keep talking to people about is what went well, what didn't go as planned, and what would I do differently? And that can help us figure out our plan for the next time that we are going to have a conversation with them, with that person, or the people who shared with us. Then in the moment, the answer was no. Okay. How do I then understand so that I can move forward and see what it might lead to after that?
I think that's a real shift that a lot of people have to go through. And like we talked about yesterday, you got to get over it in your mind. You've got to be willing to acknowledge that no isn't everything's wrong, but no is just at that moment in time, it's not right for that person for whatever reason. If you can identify what that reason is, you can potentially affect it in the future, whether for that person or someone else. Hey, you know what? That's a great offer. I really like your product or service, but it's just not a fit right now because we're in the last quarter of our business year and we've had a tough year. We just don't have the money for it. Oh, can I call you October 2nd when you start a new year? Oh, yeah, we might have the budget for that. In fact, send me your information so I can put it in our planning for next fiscal year. I've done that with people before, or I've had people pay me in this year because they had extra money and I do the work the next year. But that's from that discussion where had I not been willing to be flexible and understand their situation and have the trust that they can say, Bob, here's what we're trying to do. The numbers aren't going to work the way that you would like them to, but if you can do this for us, I'm cool with that. And that really, that's part of that. Instead of just it's no, it's like, well, okay, what would make it work? Like I was trying to speak to a group one year, and I said, what's your biggest problem? And it's like, well, our vendors don't know how to use their trade booth. I was like, you want me to do a free video for you that you can send all the vendors on how to use the trade booth? You do that? I'm like, yeah, if I can speak, I'll do that for you. Well, it was win-win for me. One, I had the information. Two, I got to be in front of the vendors. So when I went to the show, the vendors were coming up to me. Hey, look, I did what you said. Look how I turned the booth.
Sure.
Look how I put this stuff on the table. I got business from that. So here's solving a person's problem because they articulated to me, this is my real problem right now. And rather than going, well, that doesn't matter to me because I speak about this. Hey, here's a possible solution. It didn't take a lot of work for me. And it really solidified a relationship that, wow, Bob's not just in this to speak because he likes to speak. Bob's really trying to help me solve my problems. I can't solve your problems. You can't solve someone's problems, Tom. No one can solve anyone's problems unless we really understand what the problem is. And sometimes the problem is something that I can't solve. But even then, I'll say, hey, you know what? I'm blessed with a great network. You're looking for web services. I have this guy, Tim Nebergall, who's really good with web services. Let me connect you with him. Hey, you need printing. I've had real success with this. And I think that's what we're really trying to get at is being a trusted advisor, really supporting a person beyond, I sell widgets, buy my widgets, right, and then you'll never hear from me again.
Here's Tim has a good comment. His first comment is he loved your office today.
Thank you,
we all
Tim.
do. You know, we all wish we had the office that Bob has, and as many offices as Bob has.
Thank God for Wi-Fi.
And Tim's other comment, which is good, is many times a no to a larger project led to a smaller project, which then led back to a larger project. Patience and focus on the relationship will lead to business. I think that's really true. And I think sometimes the other thing happens, you know, the vice versa, where you get a yes, you know, you're not getting the bigger project that you thought you really wanted. And you have the opportunity to maybe help them with something smaller. You know, even if you had not gotten the speaking opportunity, the opportunity that they would have said, hey, you know what, this guy's willing to do this for us, this small thing. We're not paying him for it, but it's adding value to what we're doing, makes you someone that they would go back to and be like, hey, you know what, when we really need somebody, or when we think we have a good opportunity, this is someone that we should consider doing something for, because they helped us in an area that they didn't have to, and it was much smaller than they thought it would be. And in reality, it was as beneficial to them as had you been the speaker at that moment. And
they did come back to me.
Correct.
They did come back to me with a big project that they'd never done before. And they're like, Bob, we've always wanted to do this. Would you be willing to do it? And it was exactly something I would do. It was tailor-made for what I wanted. And I think it only came because the person I dealt with that organization, we really got to know each other. You know, I shared with her what my challenges were. And she's like, well, I can imagine. Yeah, we could probably help you with that. Oh, great. And that's really the synergy that you start to see. It's the same thing you and I have found. You know, last night at the game, when you and I were talking through some issues that one or the other of us had, it was two heads were better than one. You came up with a brilliant idea for something I was struggling with. And then you said with another situation, someone came up with something for you. And in both cases, like, I should have thought of that, but we both realized we're too close to it. And sometimes someone in a business situation is so close to their company, to their team, that you as an outsider can say, oh, wow, have you thought of this? Oh, no, wait, hold, that would actually work. And that's when you start to build that relationship that leads to then, I think once you start to help someone, then they start to look for ways to get you involved.
Sure.
And that's when really great things happen.
Well, they see you as a trusted resource, is what you said before. Is that
Correct.
You are top of mind when they're struggling with something, and you have the ability to help them.
Yeah. And I think that's hard, having coached some people through this. It's a hard thing to recognize because it means you may not make the sale the first time, the fifth time, the eighth time you have the call. But every time you're moving closer. And sometimes I've talked to people and they're like, I've talked to this person 6 times. I'm like, well, what was the last discussion about? Oh, we were talking about their daughter's playing volleyball this year and she's a freshman. I'm like, awesome. They're like, but I didn't get the business. I'm like, now you can call back in 2 weeks and go, well, your daughter's, how's she doing? How's the team doing?
Right.
You don't think that person's not going to say, wow, that's really awesome that this person recognizes that my daughter's important to me. They remembered she plays volleyball and they called to check on her play. How awesome is that?
Absolutely.
And that's the shift that you and I have been really trying to help people understand in building relationships, not just building the one sale goodbye. Because it's awfully hard to find new people. I'd rather go back to the people I've worked with before, or the people that know me, and go, hey, Tom, just wanted to let you know I'm doing this new thing. I don't know if it's a fit for you or a fit for anyone around you, but without saying it, you know that I will do what I say I'm going to do because I've done it for you. Oh, yeah. Now that's how you build a business that's sustainable.
I would agree.
So, Tom, one of the best parts of the program, there's so many great parts. The best part to me, what got this whole thing started was today's antidote, that thing that we're going to offer people so that they can consider it and potentially change their life or walk through something and get ready to take their next step because they have a new way to look at something. So what's your one thing today?
So my one thing, when we think about when someone says no and what can it lead to, I think it can lead to understanding. Has the opportunity to lead to understanding. One of the things that's interesting, we'll go back to the baseball analogy. Had the Orioles won 19 games in a row, they probably would not have spent as much time thinking about, okay, what were the challenges that we were facing? Because they were faced with 19 losses in a row, they had to go back and say, okay, where are we at? What's gone well? What hasn't gone as planned? And what we need to do differently? And I think that gives you a different understanding of where your organization is at, what the situation is like. And so when you get a no, it almost forces you to say, oh, geez, okay, well, what might I need to do differently than what I did this time? When you get a yes, you're like, all you do is move on to, great, now let's go through and process payment. Let's sign contracts, whatever the next step is to that, without thinking about, taking the time to say, maybe there were some things in there that didn't go as well as I planned. I got a yes, but the yes might have been smaller than I thought. And might have been, maybe there was an opportunity for it to be larger. Maybe there was the opportunity to do it differently, to bring someone else in. And because we got the results we wanted. So we didn't take any time to really often take time to understand why did we get the results that we got. And one of the reasons that I think the result is not as important, while it is important, the really important thing is, how do I learn from whatever just happened? And how do I leverage that to impact what's real for me and what I will do differently the next time? And I think if there's one thing you can take away from is, when they say no is an easy, immediate way for you to say, okay, let me re-look at this and evaluate and measure what happened. I think when we get the yes, we don't always do that. We just are celebrating, which is great. And oftentimes, if we're doing that regularly and we're having a lot of success, that thing that is kind of underlying issue that we're not going to catch because we're not worried about it or thinking about it might come up and bite us. And then we are going to be shocked when we're like, why am I getting all these no's? I was getting all these yeses. Why am I getting all these no's? And I think it becomes easier to be harder on yourself to try to figure out, and not figure it out and just go into the woe is me. It's, I can't do this, all those things, that the emotions that we can deal with. So the fact that you got to know gives you an opportunity. It almost forces you to think about, okay, what can this lead to? How can I use this information to better where I'm at?
I love that. I love that you used the word opportunity. That was the word I was going to use. But the really interesting thing to me, to go back to the baseball game last night, I was listening this morning to the radio, and two of the players actually went around the field, the dugout, and the players' clubhouse with sage. Now, burning sage is a way that goes way back in history to clearing out negative energy and bad things, and you basically create a fresh start. So they did this. So what I like about that is, here are baseball players. Their skills are in hitting a bat, or swinging a bat, hitting a ball, catching a ball. They went completely outside of that to order sage. A guy overnighted sage so that they could do it. And they went out yesterday, and they were attributing a lot of their success last night to a new attitude. And sure, they tied it to the sage. And I think that's a real lesson to me, that sometimes you have the opportunity maybe outside of what you've always done, because the players didn't know about sage. And you can imagine what that looked like at 4:00 when these guys are out burning sage. And it's like, what's that smell? What the heck? Oh, that's sage. But it led to a different outcome for them, because they were willing to step out of the routine and to try something. I'm sure someone said, hey, you know what? You want to clear this out? Sage is your answer. You know what? We've lost 19 games. We got to try something. And in business, I think we don't have that. I've called 19 people and I've gotten all no's. Maybe I should change something up. We tend to want to stick with what we've always done and not look for that opportunity. And I think that's at its core, the way the no leads to something different is to look for the opportunity, whatever that looks like.
Excellent. I love that. I think it's interesting to me that we can have a positive conversation all week around a negative result, or what is perceived as a negative result. And I think that that's something for people to always consider, is that, that the result is the result in the moment. And I just feel like I have to share, because we've been talking about this. Sorry for everyone listening to the podcast. We hope you still love it, but you're not going to get a chance to see photo.
There's our great selfie. And I love that. That is one of my favorite pictures ever, because it just captures a really fun evening that we had together. And Tom and I, that was the 5th time we've been in the room with each other. No, 6th time we've been in the same place since we started this.
Yeah, I haven't lost track about that, but interesting.
I've kept track because it's fascinating to me how much we've accomplished without being in the same room every day.
Sure.
And I think that's a lesson that I've taken from this, that technology allows us to get outside of ourselves. And I also want to point out, Tom, I finally got to meet Tim in person when we went to San Francisco to a Giants game together with our wives, and we had a great, great day. And so baseball for me is really one of those great connectors. So It was great to get to do that with you yesterday.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. And I think, it's interesting is that when the world started saying no to us and to others, what it led to was an opportunity for us to do something different. And that's how we started today. So I hope that as you all are thinking about, maybe you got to know in some regard, what can that lead to for you? And I'd love to hear stories. If you'd like to go inside our Ringer Renegades Facebook group and share your story of when a no actually led to something bigger and maybe better. I think that would be a great thing to share with people.
Or even unexpected, right?
Or even unexpected, right? Maybe it wasn't even bigger or better. It was just something different that turned out to add value to what was real for you. So thanks so much for listening today. If you're listening to the podcast or watching us, if you're watching our live stream on YouTube or Facebook, please feel free to share this episode or this show with people that you know, because we'd love to get your feedback. We'd also like to get people who would like to subscribe to the podcast or who would like to join our Ring of Renegades Facebook group. It's very easy to do. Both of those are easy to do. Just hit the little subscribe button or offer feedback if you're listening to the podcast. And if you are a Facebook person and like to join us, just go to Ring of Renegades, search for Ring of Renegades. And you just have to ask to join because it's a private group, because we're trying to create a community and a space for people to come in and have conversations like the one we just had, to help them figure out how to take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time.
We got to do it early tomorrow morning, Tom. Remember?
Oh, we have a commitment. So those of you who are Facebook Live people, we will see you at 7 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Podcast people, it won't impact you. You'll still be able to get it by around 8:30 or 9.
Yeah.
Wherever you get your favorite podcasts. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow, or we'll see you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group.
Hey, everyone, embrace the renegading you.
Have a great day. What happens when you have too many different things it's sometimes hard to find the right button. Here you go. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.